On page 1, you shared about your experience as a victim of fake news on the All Singapore Staff website, where your photo was used to suggest that you were a new citizen, disappointed with Singapore, and thinking of giving up your citizenship. You then took to social media to clarify that the photograph of you and that the article were unrelated, but the harm had already been done to both yourself and your family. In fact, the fake news resulted in you and your family having to face xenophobic comments from others, which impacted your wife and your young daughter. So in your submission, on page 1, you shared that the law needs to be updated to bring better redress to victims like yourself. Right. I'll just stop here to make sure that I've understood your submission so far correctly.
That's correct, yeah.
That's correct?
Yeah.
Yep, sorry, if you could speak a bit.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Prakash. Do you feel that you were targeted because, in fact, we could possibly look at you as a double minority, in the sense, first, as a citizen of a minority race,
right,
and second, as a new citizen? So do you feel that you were potentially targeted because you are a double minority in this case?
No, personally, I don't feel whether I have been targeted. For me, it looks like they have used that wrong photo in the first place. Why I'm saying this? Because subsequently they have changed the photo to another new citizen. So there is a possibility they might be use my photo by mistake. That's my perception.
Okay, perhaps I phrased the question somewhat differently. There were obviously a lot of comments arising from the post.
Right.
Comments that were potentially hurtful.
Right.
I will not repeat them here.
Right.
But those comments, while you may not have read all,
right,
I believe you would have read some.
Yes.
And I think some of those comments were quite extreme.
Right.
And they were targeted at you in the two characteristics I mentioned earlier.
Right.
First, that you are a minority, and
right,
second, as a new citizen.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally agree with that.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. And would you agree that in the past, perhaps without the massive outreach of the social media platforms, that there could have been such private views on minorities, on new citizens, that there could be private opinions on such matters? But in this time and age, with the outreach of the social media giants, of websites, and the way posts can be transmitted very quickly and very widely, that what are in the past private opinions could quickly actually overflow into the public sphere. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I mean, the social media can play a big role. I mean, in spreading that fake news. And in the past, definitely, this kind of situation I've never faced. And I don't think that face-to-face, even one or two individuals told me that you are a foreigner, you are from the minority section. But it's not impacted me so much. But because of the, it's put on the social media and it's spread out. And I was more hurt because of the comment posted by that public at large. That was more hurtful to me.
Yes, yes. I think you did mention in your submission that impacted yourself, your wife, right, and your daughter. Right, yeah. And I think apart from the post spreading in the way that it did, right, the quickness of the comments, right, and people posting their what had been the past private thoughts in a very public arena, right, and people perhaps commenting on what other people comment on, that
right,
in itself is kind of like a self-feeding kind of a frenzy, right?
Yeah,
and I think that probably affected you and your family very much.
True, yeah.
Okay, I'll now like to go to page 2 of your submission, where you recommended that the social media platforms be more responsible for what is put on their portals.
Right.
Specifically, if I were to look at the section on what you mentioned on what can be done, in point number 3, you mentioned that there has to be an updated code of conduct for social media sites so that fabricated stories are not published, and doing so is punishable by law.
Right.
In the same para, you mentioned that recently Facebook has given the facility to users to flag any news that they think is inappropriate, but that more needs to be done.
Right.
In para 4, you even go and be quite specific in your recommendation that there should be an identification of sites that are potentially troublemakers And firstly, when there is fake news, that they should get a warning. Second time, that there's a fine.
Right.
And third time that they do it, the site should be shut down.
Right.
That is your recommendation. In para 5, you mentioned that the government has the resources and the clout to fight back, but not so the common man. And that they, I assume that what you mean is the common man, in this case, need legal protection.
Right.
I would like to just, I assume that you've been following the submissions by witnesses in the past few days. Because you've been quite direct and unequivocal in your suggestion on potential legislative changes and powers to seek redress, I would just wanted to seek your thoughts on what some of the activists who were with us yesterday said. Some have felt that things should be left to work things through on their own, that perhaps in your case, you could have put up a post to debunk the original post.
Right.
How do you see that vis-a-vis what you're suggesting in para 3, 4, and 5 that I mentioned here? Because in paras 3, 4, and 5, you explicitly mentioned that A, there should be code of conduct for social media sites. Number 2, they should be given explicit warning. 1, 2, 3, third time they don't comply, site should be shut down.
Right.
And then the next part, government should have the resources. So that's a bit different from, I think, what some witnesses have said yesterday.
Okay.
Could I hear your thoughts on it, please?
So basically, what I was trying to say that since I have gone through all that this process, and I feel like I did after that rebuttal on the social media, I also filed a police report, but I don't find out any redresser on after the filing the police report. It was, of course, after we got. After a few months later, I got a reply from police that it is a civil in nature, so you have to address this one as a civil court. So that was the first. So I still don't feel that don't get any kind of protection that sense. So the only way I can see that there will be a proper legislation which can help an individual like me to protect from this kind of fake news.
Okay, so that's on the point of redress. Because as you mentioned also in your submission, that the police recommended that the case was civil, you have been advised to seek civil redress, but you felt that there is a need for a change in laws so that you can embark on this. That's on one point. But the other point I think you were mentioning in your recommendations, para 3, 4, and 5, is about taking down the fake news, and that you are suggesting that the social media site should have the responsibility to do so,
yes.
And failing which, actually, the government should have the resources and the clout to do so. So, in other words, do I then understand that you do not agree with the viewpoint, as suggested by some witnesses yesterday, that actually the onus of responsibility should be on yourself, for instance?
No, it should be both.
It should be both?
Both, yeah.
So you feel that you should have gone online to debunk the fake news?
Yes. I should do from my part, but at the same time, we should have been protected by some kind of legislation where the warning, because what I know that all Singapore stuff is that not based in Singapore, so it's outside the Singapore jurisdiction. So it will be difficult to take any action against those kind of website. And because being a social media, it can be anywhere in the world they can manage this kind of situation. So definitely, it's from my individual basis level, I can go and debunk that, put the facts on to the public domain. But at the same time, there should be some legislation where the government or that can be take necessary action to either give the warning to that website or social media, to verify that any news before posting on the social media, because the damage can be done.
Okay, so just to make sure I understand you clearly, what you're saying is that in your case, you understand that the website is not based in Singapore, and therefore you're of the view that local legislation or local police action would not be sufficient to get that fake news taken down, and therefore you take it upon yourself to clarify that. To clarify or to debunk, sorry.
I think debunk is the first step what I took, at the same time, because I don't want to be more people will be reacting which is hurting to me.
Yes.
So that was my first step. But subsequently, I filed the police report. So there should be some legislation to take action against that website or the person behind putting the fake news, so that further, the same situation will be not appear time and again. And this kind of website or the owner of the website should be more careful before posting such kind of news.
Sure. But would you agree that the effectiveness of you putting up the truth in this case, after what we've heard from the experts in the past couple of days, that the truth sometimes limps along quite slowly in the back while the falsehood is already circulating around the world. I think that's the first point. And I think the other is really the backfire effect, with which some have suggested, in which after you put up the truth, because of various personal heuristics and the way people interpret information, that even when they see the truth, it could potentially even encourage the original falsehood impression that they had. Would you agree with that view?
Not really. In fact, rebuttal will be rebuttal send a right message to that the person or that people in large putting that comments because of this article. So definitely it will be help me to stop additional comment by that people at the large. So it will be, I still believe to put the rebuttal first and followed by some kind of action from that from the law point of view.
Yes. Just so that I was clear, I guess what I'm saying is that I'm not saying that you should not put up the truth. Definitely you should, especially since it concerns yourself and your family. I guess what I was trying to say is that even when you do that, the effectiveness of that may be somewhat limited because, number one, it is personal action and the truth limps along slowly. It takes time for the truth to get out there. And also people might not want to believe it because they may have personal biases. I think that's the point I was trying to make.
But in my case, what's happened once I put the rebuttal, of course, I was in India at that time, attending one of the relative marriages.
Yes.
So I was not physically present in Singapore. But a lot of friends start rebutting or putting article or putting the feedback, good thing about me. So that also helps to that people who are commenting otherwise to understand that the news is not the real news, there is a fake news. And putting my rebuttal also helps to effectively stop spreading further this news.
Okay.
So in my case, I'm not sure in general it may take longer time to get that redressal, but in my case, I have seen that it has a big impact, and within I think 12 hours or 15 hours time, I have seen that photo has been changed, and subsequently even they have put I think very next day they have take out that article from the website.
Okay, but regardless, you still feel that the government has the resources and the clout, in your words, to fight back, not so the common man against, again, your words.
Right.
So you do feel that while you are putting up, in your case, the truth, to clarify, to debunk the original falsehood, that the government should also have a role to ensure that such deliberate online falsehoods do not find a place in society.
Right.
And that social media websites you mentioned should have the responsibility to take it down.
Yes.
And that as a form of remedy, I guess the government should have the resources to ensure that they take down the deliberate online falsehoods. You agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. Perhaps before I go over to Mr. Mohan, Chairman, would you like to open the floor to any potential questions for Mr. Prakash first? Because I think Mr. Mohan's submission is perhaps of a different nature.
Okay, Mr. Dasani.
Mr. Prakash, thank you for your testimony. Would you know, I looked at the article, it's still online, except now Mr. Fernandez's photo is that of a woman.
Right.
Yeah, it's a Chinese lady named Mr. Fernandez. Yeah, and this article has been shared 44,700 times on Facebook. Can I ask you, to the best of your recollection, when was this published? This article with your photograph?
22nd of November, 2016.
And when were you informed by your friends about the use of your photo on this article?
Very same day, because I was that time in India attending one of my relative marriage, and I start getting lot of like a WhatsApp and call and messages what's going on and what is this news about. So that's time I got the message.
What did you do when you received these messages? What steps did you take?
I mean, first I got shocked what's all this happening, and unfortunately I was that time in India. But immediately then I discussed with some of my friends how to. I mean, the first thing what I did, I read few comments on that article, which is definitely, as I said, that is quite hurtful and it's more like a racial in nature. But I then stopped reading those articles, and what I thought that it's better not to reply to that article itself, rather than I put rebuttal on that that this is the facts there. So that was my first step. So I of course take help from some of the friends in Singapore writing those articles, and then I put on the Facebook so that facts and that what fake is there can be segregated.
So that means you wrote your own Facebook post?
Yes.
And how many times was this shared? Do you know?
I put on the public because my Facebook currently is private, so I put on the public. And I frankly, I have not follow further, because the more I was reading that kind of post or anything, it was more hurtful. So I thought better to avoid this kind of, the messages, or better to follow what's public opinion is there. But as long as I myself, I know, my friend circle or my families knows what I am. So I think that should be suffice for me to just follow just ignore that fake news.
So you say on the 22nd of November 2016, the article was published, you were notified the same day, and you put the clarification on the same day.
Right, yeah.
22nd of November 2016.
Right, yeah.
But your submission at paragraph 3 says, however, the harm had been done. Right. And this is all within the same day?
Within the same day, yes.
Thank you. You mentioned you put an article on Facebook, on your own Facebook. My earlier question was, do you know how many times it was shared?
No, I have not.
You didn't look at it?
I have to come check how many times it has been shared.
You can. Yeah. What other steps did you take? Do you try to contact the website that put up this original article?
No. What I did, after that, I filed the police report very next day. Next day, I filed the police report, and that's the two steps I took. But some of the friends I know, they went to that all Singapore stuff website, and they start rebutting some of the comments. They start like arguing with those comments. So I have seen some of the friends, and on my post also, a lot of friends start putting good comments about myself. No, he has been here for last 20 years. He's been a community. He's serving the community also. So those kind of positive comments has been put up by a lot of my friends.
So 22nd November 2016, this article went out in the name of Fernandez, but with your photograph.
Right.
Do you know when this photograph was changed to that of a Chinese woman? How many hours later?
What I have been told, maybe by evening it has been changed.
So by the evening, the site changed it from your photograph to that of a Chinese woman.
Right.
Is that correct? Oh, okay. Thank you, Shirling. I know you don't want to see it, but your Facebook post clarifying that the photograph was false was shared 3 times versus the original post, which was shared just on Facebook alone. I've not cited the numbers elsewhere. Shared 44,700 times on Facebook, and also shared on WhatsApp, Twitter, Reddit, Flipboard, and Blogger. I presume you didn't go onto WhatsApp, Flipboard, Twitter, Reddit, and Blogger to also put out your facts. Did you?
No,
only on Facebook.
Only on Facebook.
Thank you. Did the alternative, what's the site, ASS, All Singapore staff write to you, apologize, clarify that they put the wrong photograph? No. Did you get any following this incident, it was in the news, yeah, it was shared many times. Did you, after 22nd of November 2016 till to date, get anyone mistaking you for this so-called Fernandez and approaching you, criticizing you, writing to you?
No,
it is ceased.
No.
You know, it is relatively easy to put up a false article and put a photograph. First question is, where do you think this photograph might have come from? You've seen
I
it.
was giving one interview to Channel News Asia, one of the community event, they share harmony, and that's how they have pick up that photos from there, then put in that website.
So you believe the photograph was publicly available on the CNA website, and it was taken from there?
Right.
Was it a whole photo or was it cropped photograph?
It's a whole photo.
It's a whole photo of you.
Right, yeah.
Could you compare and contrast the ease with which this false article was put up with the efforts you had to take? And let us have your feelings about this.
Okay,
So I've said earlier, it's quite easy to put up this article and put your photo from anywhere on the internet.
Right.
And you've explained to us the difficulties that you and your family face and the efforts you had to take thereafter to get this corrected.
Right.
Could you share with us your feelings and thoughts about this?
I mean, it's hard to take such kind of fake news. But as I said, that I was not spending too much time on the. I mean, initially, like 1 or 2 days, I was a bit disturbed. But after that, I thought it's better to ignore it rather than commenting it or rather than spending more time. But at the same time, definitely, I would like to see some kind of remedial or some kind of legislation whereby that this kind of website or social media can be, because we as a common man, it's very difficult to go and fight with them. So it's some kind of comment support or comment legislation where we can stop this kind of spreading the fake news.
So in your case, the photograph was taken down and replaced with a woman's photo.
Right.
Let's take, for example, let's say till today, your photograph is still there, still there, yeah?
Right.
And you're told that nothing can be done. All efforts have been made to talk to the site.
Right.
Either you do it yourself, civil remedy, or you just live with it and leave it there. What would you say to that? There's nothing that the authorities can do to help you.
No, authorities can block the website, such kind of website, giving the warning to them, okay, why you put the fake news? I mean, nobody is verifying. I mean, definitely they have not verified whether it's a real news or the fake news. But as a person, I know it's a fake news. I can affirm that they have put the fake news. So based on that, is there any way there we can block that website or we can give them the warning so that in future, such kind of things will be not happen again?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prakash. Hetamsaria?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your testimony. I just am picking up on 2 points. Number one, you mentioned that your solution or your way of dealing with it, in addition to putting up your own Facebook post, which unfortunately wasn't shared as widely as the initial story, was basically to just ignore it. And you were confident that your families and friends know who you are.
Right.
And you can just move on. Would that be a correct characterization of how you dealt with the problem?
I'm not sure how to handle it, frankly. I'm not an IT guy personally, so I'm not sure. I mean, if I go start searching how many websites or social media they have put the post, how many likes they are there. So I'll be maybe too much spending time on the negative aspects of negative side. So I would rather prefer, to focus on the, things in hand today, rather than spending whatever fact was there, I have already put on that, Facebook. So I think my part, I don't think what else I can do. Frankly, I don't know how to move further from here. Except that maybe government can help me to see whether any kind of support or any kind of action against those kind of site can be taken.
So basically some sort of a legal remedy for you to at least deal with some of the problems that arose. And that brings me to my second question, actually. You spoke earlier about blocking the site, giving them a warning. So am I correct to assume that you're suggesting an approach which perhaps starts with a warning, and then if they continue not to comply, additional punitive action can be taken against the site, leading to ultimately, I would think, a removal of that site. Is that what you're suggesting?
Right, yeah.